Last Friday, I got the new Crimson Coat box from Games Workshop, and I wanted to see how fast I could paint them and get a video out. So the question today, guys, is can I paint these vampires before the sun rises?
I'll catch you after this.
Pickle jar, miniatures, excellent!
Hello and welcome to the Pickle Jar. My name's Josh, and in today's video we're going to be painting the brand new Underworlds expansion, the Crimson Coat. Now I love vampires, and as soon as Games Workshop showed these off, I couldn't wait to get my mitts on them and hit them with a paintbrush. Now I never got into fantasy, always opting to play 40k instead, but one of the factions that always sort of got my attention was the vampire counts. After seeing these and the new stuff in the Cursed City box, I've got high hopes for the vampires coming back in Age of Sigmar and what they do with those, though my wallet may not agree. I've only ever played one game of Underworld, so I have no idea what this team will play like. I quickly moved the cards that came with the box to one side and I got started clipping, cleaning and building the models up. To be honest, they didn't really have much in the way of mould lines that needed cleaning, just the odd one here and there. I quickly got rid of these with the back of my craft knife and moved on to starting to put them together. Now these are easy build kits, and whilst that's awesome because it saves on glue, it does mean that once the pieces are attached, it's pretty much impossible to get them apart again, as these fit together airtight. So if you're planning on painting these in a sub-assembly, be careful with your dry fittings. Now these are wonderful sculpts, really capturing the campy, over-the-top theatrical style, which I personally love. It reminds me very much of games like Castlevania, and I really do hope that Games Workshop stays more in this direction with the range in the future. Now, rather than showing off every single little bit of detail on these as I paint it up, I decided to focus on something different for each model. The only question I had left was, what model do I start with? I decided to start with the head honcho himself, or at least that's what I think he is. It might not be, I genuinely have no idea how this game works. Now I've been looking forward to painting this armour ever since I saw it first shown off. Plenty of angles and sharp edges, enough to make even a Dark Eldar turn their heads. I started out with a base coat of Doom Bull Brown, thinning this down and working in a couple of layers until I got full coverage. Now normally when I'm painting red armour, I would start a lot darker than this, usually something like a Rhinox hide or something similar, but I wanted this armour to be nice and bright. I don't usually go for the same colours as the box art, but in this case I absolutely loved the red armour and I couldn't resist doing it in my own style. Starting out with the brighter base coat allowed me to build on top of this easier to reach the red that I wanted. Once the base coat was on, I thinned down some Evil Sun Scarlet until it was just above a glaze consistency and started to apply to the armour panels. Now I used deliberate brush strokes here, brushing towards the areas that I wanted to be brighter and away from the shadowed areas. This took a few coats to get the red built up to where I wanted it, and each coat I covered a smaller surface area, helping to create a nice subtle transition. I added a quick wash of Nuln Oil to help define the separate panels on the armour, and then I went back in with Evil Sun Scarlet once again just to brighten that red back up on the panels. Now I really wanted to make the armour stand out on this guy, so I added some Troll Slayer orange to my red and started to pick out a few highlight points, mainly around the edges of the armour, but a few in the middle of the panels as well. Now something that I was recently told to try and push was the contrast on my miniatures, to try and push up the difference between the brightest and the darkest areas. So I decided to go back in with my orange by itself for an even smaller edge highlight on some select areas. Finally I went back in with a few dots of white here and there, and that was this guy's red armour all finished. Next I decided to work on this lovely bat gargoyle vampire? Whatever he is, he looks cool as hell, and I was eager to have a go at painting his wings. Now I've tried to paint wings before, and whilst I did a decent enough job on the feathered ones, the more bat-like wings were left looking well, like garbage to be honest. I started with a dry brush of a Kislev Flesh and Dawnstone mix all over the wings and the skin. I wanted to have a bit of a fleshy turn in there so that it didn't just look like stone, but these are vampires, so I couldn't just give them a nice healthy complexion. Now I gave this a fairly heavy dry brush to be fair, covering the majority of the base coat with this colour. Once it was all on and dry, I covered the entire thing in Drushy Violet. I took care to make sure that it didn't pull too much, going in with a clean brush to remove the excess and just to manipulate where it was placed. The idea here was to stain the brighter layer below and shade the darker areas. It worked a lot better than I thought it would, and to be honest, I'm surprised at how easy this was. I went back in over this once it had dried, and I added a couple of light dry brushes using a cheap makeup brush just to lighten it all back up a little bit. Now the softer brushes are absolutely perfect for stuff like this, where you don't want to go too heavy. I've not tried any of the name brands, but my £5 set from B&M is working just fine for now. With the dry brushing done, that was this guy finished. Next up on the painting desk is Lurch. Now I've no idea what his actual in-game name is, but come on, how can you not call this guy Lurch? I had spied a rather lovely looking cape on his back whilst I was building him, and I was very excited to get some paint on this. I decided to reverse the colour scheme for this guy, giving him black armour with a red cape. And if you know me at all, you'll know how much I enjoy painting capes, especially red ones. I used the same colours that I had on the Count earlier on to keep the colour scheme going through the group without just painting them all the same. I built up the brighter red on the folds, leaving the base coat in the recessed areas until I was happy enough with it, and then once again I added a mix of red and orange into a few select areas. Now to add a little bit of texture and interest, I then took Troll Slayer Orange just by itself and added a few scratchy lines along the raised up folds, trying to keep these as small as possible. Once they were on, I was happy enough with how the cape looked, and I moved on to the final member of this court, a lady that I like to call Lady Fangs and Teeth. Now I identify with this model quite a lot. Not only can we both pull off wearing thigh-high boots, but we also both have magnificent hair. I decided to go for purple hair, helping tie her in with Winged Boy and give a feeling of coherence across the group. After how well the shade approach had worked on the wings, I thought I'd try something similar here. Now I started by dry brushing the hair with Ulthuan Grey. Rather than just catching the edges, I decided to go heavier in a couple of spots, hoping to create a little bit of interest rather than just a flat purple. With this on and dry, I went in with Drushy Violet and then realised the error that I had made. There's not enough flat surface area for this to work quite as effectively as it had done on the wings, meaning that what I got was the brighter areas just getting a slight stain from the wash and the rest of it pooling in all the recesses. I ended up mixing a purple and red to make a nice mid-tone, and I applied this to the hair instead. Now I didn't go too heavy with this as I thought it'd be a nice bit of variation between the wash, this mix, and then the lighter areas which I dry brushed in again afterwards. With this model finished, my painting journey with the Crimson Court was over. I've been looking forward to painting these for such a long time, and I really enjoyed myself working on them. In total, I think I spent between 10 and 15 hours on the 4 models, and I am very, very pleased with how they look. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, then leave us a like, and if you want to help support the channel, then check out the links down below for our affiliates and our channel sponsor, Broken Turd. I stream right here every Wednesday, so if you're doing your own hobby or if you just want to chat and ask some questions, then be sure to pop along. And we also have a Discord server where you can get involved and share your work and chat with other hobby people. Link for that down in the description below. Finally, I'd like to say a massive thank you to all our current channel members. Pretzel, Andy Allen, Chaotic Painting, The Immersive World Crafter, The Hobby Corner, Frosts and Fists, Caring Commissar, Amy Roo, Ravensrook Miniatures, Mugwump, Big McDanskull, and Ybird. You guys are absolutely awesome and the support is massively appreciated. If you'd like to become a member yourself, then simply click the join button down below. That's all from me, and I'll see you next week with another video.